What's up, guys? Nick G here, doing a video today on Black Sun, the Black Sun or Black Solar Cults, um, some imagery in popular culture. This is a screenshot from a music video called Sicko Mode by Travis Scott and Drake. I'm pretty isolated from popular culture. This song's been out for a while now. I just noticed it, and to my surprise, right at the beginning, boom, you have a solar eclipse, and it's kind of remarkable that nobody asks the simple question, why? I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I know everything, but nobody asks why. They're just like, oh yeah, dude, this is just how it is. These are just the visuals, right? Nobody ever asks a simple question, why things are the way they are. And to be honest, I don't even know if artists nowadays choose the imagery for their music videos. We know about ghostwriters, we know about things like that. We just see the finished product. I don't even know if these guys dress themselves. They got not just them in particular. I'm just talking about the industry, like a bigger idea, the bigger picture. We don't know if people write their own songs. We don't know if they pick the images for their videos. They have a lot of help. That's not necessarily a bad thing. They have a team, but we just see the finished product and the guy dancing in front of us like he put it all together by himself, when in reality there's a lot of other people involved in making what we see before us. I want to focus specifically on what this image is, the black sun, the solar eclipse. This image is synonymous with Satanism, 100%. No, and this isn't like the first time it appeared in this music video. It's an ancient thing across multiple cultures, across different time periods. The Nazis, from the Aztecs to the Nazis, that's how wide of a time range we're talking about, to the 1940s. So this isn't even just ancient superstitious nonsense. This is like a relatively modern thing. The Jesuits, I have a couple pictures to show you later on. But of course, the Nazis used it. One thing kind of interesting about that, I couldn't include the Nazis' image of the black sun because there's an algorithm in place. I don't know how it is on YouTube, but on Instagram I tried to post it, and the image instantly gets taken down. So what that tells me, and I'm not endorsing it by any stretch of the imagination, but what that tells me is they have an algorithm in place on Instagram to recognize that image and instantly take it down, because no person saw it that quick. So it was obviously like an AI. It was obviously an algorithm. Okay, so again, black sun, solar eclipse, Satanism. Satanism equals the belief that man is God, and you see that sentiment sort of as a constant theme throughout. I have a lot of respect for hip hop, so I don't even want to put that evilness on it. But you see it a lot through hip hop. The bragging attitude. You can't tell me anything. I have the money. I'll have sex with your wife. Just that sort of attitude, and it's kind of funny as an audience, as a career, these guys depend on their audience for their success, and this symbol is fundamentally anti-human. It's like, I don't care about you, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get where I'm going, and I'll sacrifice anything to get there. I'll sacrifice my humanity. That's basically what this is, and I got some clips to show you, just you wait. And it basically ties into that whole selling your soul concept. I was just making sure I'm recording and not wasting my time. It ties into that whole classic selling your soul idea. And if I wanted to be as absolutely understanding as possible about it, like I said, think of it as someone who would do anything to achieve some kind of goal. And some people might turn to that mindset because they feel alone. I've heard some interviews with rappers, when they first came out, people were hating on them so hard So they basically had to put on this gruff exterior so that nothing could get through, and they basically kind of like had to get rid of their heart, you know, so they wouldn't be vulnerable. And I get that, but they end up becoming exactly what made them like that in the first place towards other people, and it becomes this vicious cycle, this cycle that never ends. It's kind of like when Obi-Wan tells Anakin, "You become the very thing you swore to destroy." It keeps going on and on. And think of it as like the Nazis, you know, do anything to achieve a goal, and that includes genocide. The ends always justify the means in this mindset. Anyways, I'll play this next clip. I'll shut up for a moment. Let me check these settings. Okay, that's mute. I'm gonna make sure I mute it when I play the clip. Okay, so this clip coming up is from Apocalypto. You know, pay attention to what's going on in the sky. Pay attention to what's happening on the ground. Alright, I'll be back right after. Okay. Just gonna double check, make sure I'm not muted anymore. Alright, as you saw, I didn't include the part where the guy, typically what happens in that ritual is the human heart gets cut out. Why do you think the heart gets cut out? Because it's symbolic of care, of people's humanity, things like that. In that I have a picture at the end of this video of that classic image of Jesus, which, I mean, whether you believe in that as a physical person or not, whether you believe he's white, black, whatever, I don't necessarily care to argue about that stuff. The reason I like the picture isn't for his white skin or whatever, his hair color or whatever, you know, it's the symbology behind it. But that classic image, he's pointing at his heart. And obviously, the true teachings of Christ would be the antithesis to that mentality of, like, betraying your brother. Don't betray humanity. Don't betray your own humanity. To me, man, it's like if you ever truly love somebody, you couldn't identify with this black sun mentality, because it means you would have to say that stuff was almost meaningless. You'd almost have to say it's not worth keeping around. And anytime I think about it, like, it's like, okay, you know, I've felt alone in my life, but I've never, like, there's been relationships that I have had that I do value, and to me, it's like I would have to forsake those things and basically declare them meaningless, and that's not something I can do. Like I said, it's black sun, so Satanism equals belief that the self is God, right? And think about it psychologically. I'll put it in terms of like a goal, or I'll put it this way. The way you think, feel, and act creates, individually and collectively, creates the reality we experience. So it's like, in that sense, you kind of like are like God, because you're like creating reality. You're like, you know, you're the force that's creating change, good or bad. But there's a responsibility, I would argue, that comes with that. It's kind of like if you have a goal, there's instantly requirements. Like, as soon as you conceptualize a goal, there's requirements in place to achieve that goal. So you're sort of subordinate to the goal. You're not in charge. You're subordinate to the requirements, to the responsibility. And you could think of that in the context of just like a relationship you would have with a goal, but I would say it goes beyond that, and there's a universal, timeless, like, human responsibility. And that's sort of like what all these stories of like heroes is trying to explain and illustrate. I'm sorry guys, I'm not too organized on this. I'm doing the best I can. And again, this is bigger than Drake and Travis Scott. You know, I'm not insulting you if you've bought their album. I've bought a Drake album before. It's been a while, but I have bought one in the past. I'm not saying you're evil for liking their music. I'm just bringing it to your awareness that these kinds of images are used right in your face, and it's like no one asks why, and I can't help but see it. And that symbol is a constant theme throughout hip hop, or it's throughout like everyone now. Like you know what I'm saying? You know why internet comment sections are so toxic and unproductive? It's because everyone thinks they're God. If everyone thinks they're God, everyone acts like there's nothing that the other person could tell them. Everyone acts like they know everything. AKA, they think they're God. They might not like describe it that way, but psychologically that's what's taking place, and that's why nothing ever. I'm sure it'll happen on this video if enough people see it. You know, maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's actually a lot of smart people out there on the internet. They just don't, and in life, they just don't get the attention that other stuff gets for whatever reason. And it probably is a smaller percentage, but there's more than I think there is sometimes. Like, things aren't as bad as like it seems, although the most ignorant shit seems to get the most attention sometimes. And again, this really speaks to, like, you know, why is it when rappers talk about how rich they are, how poor you are, how they'll steal your wife, how they talk about nothing really relatable to you. And, you know, I used to like stuff like that, man, but I've changed, like, information that I've taken and has sort of changed what I value and, like, how I perceive things. And that's something that's what knowledge does. It changes the way you see reality. And that's why, like, psychological warfare is a thing. If you can get people to take in these beliefs that you want them to have, you can basically control the way they see reality, and then based off that, you can basically control their actions by default, because that's how they're seeing reality. So that's how they're gonna, you know, take steps forward, because that's you've programmed a belief system into them, a value system, a worldview, a view of self into them, and you pretty much got them from there, from the level of information all the way to their actions now, and their emotions too. You've either disabled them or made them care about ridiculous things. But what my point is, we like these like really heartless guys in rap, like, oh yeah, he doesn't care about anything, he's really cool, right? And that symbol, just the solar eclipse, just encapsulates that, and they might be right, because look how well they're doing, right? And look how people react when they see people like Drake. Like, girls and maybe even some men, surprisingly, will, like, cry when they see him and, like, scream. Like, oh my god, you know, like, they're worshipped as a god, almost, like, honestly. And, to me, man, it just speaks to the self-loathing in people. Like, I really think people don't respect themselves. Constantly, people are doing what's bad for them. Constantly they're making the same mistake that they're totally self-aware of. Constantly, you know, I see jokes, like memes, like girls, like, oh, when you go back to the same guy who screwed you over 10 times, wink wink, you know what I mean? Like, they're totally self-aware, they're totally making the same mistake. What does that say about what they feel about themselves? And what does that say when you get a bunch of people, you really think a bunch of people can think like that and have, you know, act in the world, and there's not going to be consequences for it? The world's going to move in a direction, and that's by design too. They're giving us that mentality by design, on purpose, so we can be controlled, so we'll just put up with anything. And that's another thing, man, the whole relativist attitude, like, oh, you can't make any judgments, everything's relative, you can't say one thing's better than another, and that's bunk. They just tell you that so you know, you'll tolerate anything. You ever hear rappers say, I do this religiously, or if you're not talking about the money, don't talk to me? You know, something like along those lines. They're making like an absolute. Nothing. It's like again, I do this religiously. Like, They have this goal in mind, and anything outside of that, and it's a satanic mindset. Like, it's an absolute nothing. You can't tell them anything. And I get it. There's power in that level of assurance, right? There's potentially some power in that level of assurance, because there's many ways that level of assurance can actually backfire on you. I've seen drug addicts with that level of assurance, and it's actually leading to their own downfall. It's not even like a belief in themselves or their dream. It's just like a belief that there's no problem, really. They can't admit that they're wrong. They won't say they're sorry, right? And when you think you're God, you'll never say you're sorry. You'll never repent. You'll never admit that you're wrong. That's one of the fundamental problems with Satanism. That's why when Luke Skywalker's, talking to Emperor Palpatine in the 6th movie, he's like, your overconfidence is your weakness. Luke says that to Palpatine. And then Palpatine says, or Sidious, whatever, he's the Sith Lord. He says to Luke, your faith in your friends is yours. So, again, your overconfidence is your weakness. You can't tell me anything. I can't do anything wrong. And, okay, the Nazis, Black Sun, genocide, and, I'm not going to get into the Nazi debate in World War II and the truth behind that. I don't care to argue about that. Bottom line is, the Nazis did do atrocious things. They did murder people, and the ends always justified the means, and they could be as hypocritical as they wanted to. Like, it's kind of like, if the tyrant has to murder everybody to create a peaceful world, but he's just the ultimate example of murder and oppression. Now, did he really get rid of it in the world? It's like, no, he kind of just took over the job. I mean, you can maybe argue that his intentions and his motivations were just, but, that's being generous, because a lot of times, man, I think people just are evil, just are malevolent, because that's just how they are. They're so stricken with resentment and pain and whatever, that's just how they are now, and hatred. Alright, kind of went on a tangent there. This video is already 18 minutes. I got a couple more clips to get through. I'm going to show this one. I'll be back. There, but, of course, look what's going on. Boom. This whole scene, if you're not familiar with what this movie / show is called, it's called Berserk. And this whole part of the story is called the eclipse. And boom, solar eclipse. This man Griffith, look at him. I wish you understood the story of this, because it tells you everything I was just saying, but through this template, through this format. And it's really a masterful piece of work. This is a good show, good movie, good story. Probably my favorite anime of all time. Griffith, the dude in Raps, he was tortured. His dreams, his ambitions crumbled. He seems hopeless. And he's about to sacrifice everyone during this eclipse. Anti-human. He's going to sacrifice everyone, his best friends, everyone that supported him along the way, the same way the rappers need their fan base to even be a lot, to even exist. And he's going to sacrifice them all to achieve his dream, achieve his goal. And this guy, Guts, the protagonist, the main protagonist, he's standing up for Griffith right now. These guys are basically saying, oh yeah, he's going to become a demon like us. And you'll listen to his response. I'll rewind it a little. Boom, right there. That's a key component. Only by his will. These demons, this ideology, you can think of Satanism as an ideology, a belief system, and maybe like an actual, maybe that stuff's real. Maybe demons are real. I can look at demonic possession metaphorically here, and it makes 100% real world applicable, not superstitious, real world sense. And sometimes, man, I think that these ideas are so metaphorically true that it's almost irrelevant if they're literally true, but I would still like to know if they're literally true. Like, there could be, things operating on us that we can't see. And But the main thing is, man, it always needs a host. It needs you. It needs your will. It needs you. It wants you. It's not that the battle's not flesh and blood. You know, it's one of my favorite Bible verses. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we see things playing out before us, and we're not necessarily focusing on the causal factors, the thoughts, emotions, and actions that are really leading to these manifestations, these values, these belief systems, you know, these cause and effect relationships that are leading us to what we're experiencing. And honestly, and again, it takes your will, man. It's really what this all is a question about who you are, who we are. That's what the occult is. It's who are you. It's not the occult is, that's, if I could break that, it's not evil, the occult knowledge. The black sun is an occult symbol. That one in particular kind of definitely has more of an evil connotation around it, but the occult itself is not evil. You know, a lot of Christians might disagree. It's kind of like magic. I talked about magic one time, and to me that's just like the conscious understanding that your thoughts, emotions, and will and actions, consciously using those things to manifest what you want or what's right. I guess what you want seems a little bit like iffy, because what you want isn't necessarily always what you should do. You have a responsibility, I think. But yeah, man, again, that's key. You always have a choice. And maybe, you know, maybe, but maybe things are just meant to happen and you can't do anything about it. But I act as if you have a choice because I don't like to give my power away. But what will do that is His will. And again, you see the condition Griffith is in right now. He was just, if you haven't seen this show, he was tortured for like committing this certain act. I'm not going to spoil too much of it. I feel bad for people that haven't even watched it, because this is the end of the series. And it's still worth a watch though. But you see the condition he's in. And honestly, man, that to me, it speaks on why people turn to that mentality. Like if you look at his physical condition metaphorically, like he's hopeless. He can't talk. He can barely move. His tongue's cut out. His veins are slit. He's just really brutalized. He's not handsome anymore like he once was. And all he's got really are his friends and or guts, I guess, and other friends that he has. And he's standing up to the demons, telling them there's not 1 ounce of this man that resembles your kind in any way, because obviously Guts knows him as his friend and like a real human, and he's just standing up for the good in him. Alright, I'll play the rest and comment on it. I don't even necessarily remember what else I included in here, but we'll just keep going. You know, a lot of people are like, why would you condemn Griffith for just Griffith is the one with white hair, if you haven't picked that up, but he's why would you condemn him for just having a dream? And there's some sayings, you know, like Andrew Jackson, one of my favorite presidents, he has a quote, he's like, heaven, you know, paradise, my dream. Yeah, I'll say the actual quote first. He's like, heaven wouldn't be heaven if I didn't meet my wife there. And to me, it's like, again, what's important? What do you value? Satanism looks at your ability to sever those bonds as the ultimate measurement of your power. To me, God tells you that you should defend and preserve those things and take responsibility for it, even at the risk of your own life, aka Jesus Christ. I'm sorry for invoking these kinds of stories. You know, a lot of people like really withdraw when you say those kind of, when you bring up like Jesus, you know, they'll roll their eyes. But just think of the story, what happened to him in the end. He was betrayed. You know, he was beaten all the way up to his crucifixion. You know, he was alone, surrounded by his enemies, and he did it for humanity, right? Even though humanity might not have deserved it, because we kind of killed him. And we do that with people that aren't, like, you know, whether you believe that actually happened or not. We do that with people who believe in the good in us all the time. And, again, man, it's like, could you really enjoy your paradise without, first of all, the people that helped you get there? That's a whole nother aspect to it, like the fan base, and then in this case, the band of the Hawk. And even if they didn't help you get there, it's like, could you really enjoy it without your family and friends? Like, can you just be alone with your little, like, your little mansion? And maybe, dude, I don't know. I don't know, man. I've experienced loneliness in my life, so I think it gives me a greater appreciation, greater sense of value of the relationships that I have. And I don't know, man. When you look at, you know, people's, like, biggest regrets and stuff on their deathbed, it's never like, oh, I wish I had more money. It's like, I wish I would have, like, said this to my mom, or I would have, like, spent more time with my friends. Like, I'm just saying, man, those are the biggest regrets you hear about on the deathbed. It's never, oh, I wish I spent more time alone. They never really say that, man. I don't know. On 9/11, one of the you can hear the phone call. Some people are calling 911 from inside the burning tower, right? And I know I'm going on a rant here. It's 30 minutes in, but you can hear them on the phone, and all they're talking about is like, oh, you know, tell my wife I love her, tell my mom I love her, tell my kids I love them, things like that. Those are their last words. That's what they're thinking about while they're, like, literally their surroundings are going up in flames. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it shouldn't take that situation for us to realize, like, to announce that's how we feel and, like, what we care about. And unfortunately, that's probably how the world, metaphorically, like, how the world's gonna have to be, like, engulfed in flames before we finally realize, like, we have to get our act together. But yeah, man, you know, appreciate those who are around you. Take responsibility. I didn't realize how much of a negative influence I had on people, and probably still do to some degree, but I just realized I had to be responsible for the bonds that I had and have, and it's really not a joke. It's probably it's the grandest story ever told. It's the oldest story ever told. And yeah, man, that to me, again, you'll hear, like, what's that song? Alicia Keys. She has that, "If I Ain't Got You." She's like, some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, or if I ain't got you, you know, stuff like, it's just the same sentiment. And by the way, and back to Andrew Jackson, I'm going on a rant here, but I don't even know if anyone's gonna watch this. I'm gonna upload it anyways. Back to Andrew Jackson, he was like, he did a famous thing that not a lot of presidents do. He abolished the Federal Reserve. It obviously he got rid of it, and it came back in 1913, and the only other guy since 1913 to challenge it was John F. Kennedy. He got rid of it. Obviously, JFK was assassinated. After his assassination, it got put back into place. But this isn't a video about the Federal Reserve, but do your research on that and what it means for our economy. And there's a direct, in my estimation, there's a direct connection between his statement about heaven wouldn't be heaven unless I met my wife there, and what he was willing to do for America, aka get rid of the Federal Reserve. And also, fun fact, there was an assassination attempt on Andrew Jackson. Whether that had to do anything to do with him getting rid of the Fed, I don't know, but it's possible. And it's definitely a risky move for any president to do. Like, that's something they don't play around with. In my opinion, you know, you don't have to believe that, but anyways, let's finish up here so I can end this video. Again, if you're God, there's nothing above you that you answer to. There's no sense of right and wrong. There's no responsibility. You're the highest high. There's nothing above you. There's no standard above you. So you can't feel regret. You can't say sorry. You can't do anything wrong. Just understand what that means psychologically. And yeah, like, I get, you know, at this point, he's like, alright, I gotta keep moving, you know, whatever. He's just trying to get to his dream, but ultimately that attitude is what keeps it all going. Alright, let's continue.
Now!
Okay, so lastly, I just got some images here. Whoops. You know, from the same show, Berserk, you got Griffith holding up his Crimson Ballet, offering to the demons, solar eclipse happening, his friend running behind him, trying to get to him, stop him. You know, you could see that as someone getting in your way, but to me that's somebody that cares about you. This is a deep image to me, man. It speaks 1,000 words to me. It's not cause, like, you know, if you don't appreciate the anime template, then I don't know, just try to understand the essence of what I'm saying, because this is big in human history. This isn't just like, oh, in this little TV show. The Nazis used it, the Aztecs used it, there's so many different groups that have used it. It's not a new symbol. It's not a new concept. It's pretty much as old as humans are. It's old as like human oral tradition is. Alright, see what else we got here, picture-wise. Okay, just another one of the. See, I forgot what I even included. Just another one, solar eclipse, Griffith. Another one, Travis Scott, Drake, back to their solar eclipse. This is the symbol for the Jesuits. Seal of Saturn, Black Sun. Obviously, I think I've done. I don't know if I've mentioned in other videos. This looks, to me, it looks like the hammer and sickle, like the symbol for communism. And I'm not saying sharing is wrong, but communism wants to establish state-like authority that is above God. Basically, it believes in the authority of man because it wants ultimate authority in the government, which is basically like Nimrod, Babylon, you know, type mentality. Man trying to become God. And, you know, maybe the intentions are good. I don't know, but there's millions of dead bodies from the Soviet Union, you know, that's from what I remember. Seal of Saturn, that's another thing. You need Saturn worship. That's a whole deep topic, old as time. Deep psychological meaning. It's not just like, ooh, these weirdos back in the day, cavemen idiots, worshipped Saturn. You know, Rome, cult of Saturnia. It's a thing. And understand what this means about you. Always personalize the information. What does this mean in relationship to me and how I act? That's what you're supposed to do with this knowledge, the occult. Oh, how do I think and feel, and what are my values, and how am I acting? It's the biggest question that all the political commentary, everyone always leaves out. The finger never comes back around at them. It's always the other guys, right? It's never take a look in the mirror. Alright, let's see what else we got. Something to do with alchemy, Black Sun. Alchemy in itself, again, is kind of like magic. It's not evil. But some people think through technology and intellect, man can become God, which is, again, it's a slippery slope to Satanism. Okay, here we got, again, whether you subscribe, you know, I know Christianity has its own subversion and own crusades and, like, you know, dark history and hypocrisies and things like that. But we're talking about values. We're talking about beliefs. We're not talking about what humans took with the information and tried to, you know, again, establish, you know, like, have some pope that says he can absolve your sins and, like, worship some intermediary between you and God. It was never meant to be like that. The point is, boom, what's he pointing at? Heart. What did the Aztecs cut out in the other scene? They're cutting out the heart during the solar eclipse. He's telling you, that's your salvation. I respect it, man. You don't have to. You can roll your eyes. I don't know. Makes sense to me. This is just one last little snippet I included. It's not necessarily it does relate to what I'm talking about, but you see the OVO owl. This is Drake's brand, his team, his label. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's called OVO, the IOVO, October's Very Own. That's what he calls it. And of course, it uses the owl symbol. If you know anything about the owl symbol, here we go. Boom, cremation of care in California, Bohemian Grove, cremation of care. It's about the same. It's the same concept, man. It's a different display, different template for the same idea. Cremation of care. They burn a human sacrifice. It's always the human sacrifice. There's really politicians that go here and meet up and do this. It's on video. It's well documented. Occult. They take the occult seriously. This is akin to Satan worship. This is an ancient Canaanite deity known as Moloch or Molech, the owl. And I mean, maybe he has nothing. Maybe he just likes owls. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. It's very possible. I think it's kind of funny too that he's throwing up that. I'm not necessarily. I don't necessarily make one of those people that make a big deal about that hand sign, but you know, maybe it has something to do with it. I think it's possible, man. I know what he raps about and what he thinks about and what he talks about. What he cares about is not what he tells his audience. I know that. He's smarter. And he just plays to the crowd in what we want and what we've been programmed to want. And that's partially our fault. We have to take responsibility, but that's another way of looking at the black sun. Occulted knowledge, like hidden knowledge, purposely deceiving or hiding information from people so you can wield that knowledge differential or that gap in knowledge over them as power. It's kind of like if imagine a high advanced technologically advanced civilization fighting a primitive civilization. Their vast gap in knowledge would create a huge difference in power, and that same stuff is done today. Just psychological warfare, biological warfare. A lot of things are being waged on us all the time. And main thing, man, is that selling your soul stuff. It's real. It's not just like, oh, you're just a hater. You're just rolling your eyes. Like, there's like presidents that go to this shit, man. Like, what does that mean? If you don't want to hear what I like, you want, if people are reluctant to believe me, like, just look it up, look into it, and tell me what you think about it. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't have all the answers. I'll admit that. Anyways, that's all I wanted to cover. God bless you guys. Thanks for listening.